So welcome to the third installment of the Yellow Startup Summit. I'm Jose. I'm with a company called Almien.com. What we do is corporate retreats and events. You're able to find us on Almien, ALMIEN.com. So we co-host the event with Yellow. The purpose of the summit and the event itself is to present startups and projects that are being developed here in the city of Chiang Mai, and to kind of communicate to the rest of the community what we're currently doing, what we're working on. What we've done previously in previous summits has presented different types of startups as well. We've had VR startups, we had voice-over AI startups, as well as skincare companies and a VR gamification company as well. This summit itself is a little different. We're going to be focusing primarily on Web3 startup companies. And I'm going to just get right into it immediately and tell you the 5 startups that we have today that are going to be presenting their projects. The first startup that will come up and present their projects is Loadpipe Protocol, which is an e-commerce marketplace, and that will be presented by Bo Claire.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that wonderful energy, everyone. Give it up for Jose, first of all, for hosting this whole thing. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. As he said, my name is Bo. I'm the CTO of Loadpipe, our little tagline, future of e-commerce on the blockchain. I have to apologize on behalf of our CEO, Mike. He couldn't make it today. He's in Singapore doing very important business things. So I'll be presenting in his stead. But on the topic of Mike, so Mike I met last year here, actually. So I was helping to run the blockchain meetup here at Yellow. And one day I was presenting on DAO governance structures, and specifically a structure that I had implemented called liquid hierarchy. And Mike came to me afterwards and asked me if I would be willing to do some governance consulting for him on an idea that he had, which revolved around blockchain e-commerce. And I had some questions sort of right off the bat as to where he would find buyers, where he would find sellers, how he could do this legally, all these sorts of things. And over the course of the next couple of months, we got to talking. I did a couple of governance sessions, and then eventually in December came on as CTO after we successfully launched an aspect of the product for the ETH Global Hackathon in October. So that's how I got involved. That first conversation, Mike talked to me about the problem of current e-commerce. First, sellers are increasingly squeezed by centralized platforms like Amazon, Shopify. Amazon, for instance, is taking 50% of revenue off the top for any sale that you make on the platform. Obviously, they have the economies of scale where they can do that and then do fulfillment as well. So you sort of take the bad with the good. Second problem is you have a vague TOS, opaque internal processes, which allow the centralized platforms to act as judge, jury, and executioner if you violate their TOS. There we go. And so you can see this is a little bit of the data from some of the Amazon Outlook reports last year. Some fees are increasing by up to 92% for sellers when they're talking about fulfillment services. And 61% of Amazon sellers are already looking to other platforms like TikTok, platforms like Shopify, and posting their products there. Over 50% of them are trying to expand into markets outside international markets as well. And even anecdotally, everybody understands the problem of centralized platforms having these opaque terms of services. You can get booted off of Instagram, you can get booted off of Facebook. Similarly, sellers can get booted off of Amazon for almost no reason, and they have to go through the internal processes where they appeal this process. They often don't know what's happening and can be losing their livelihood as a result. And it's as a result of the architecture of these centralized institutions. And so when you look at it, you can see these various institutions all control user accounts, they control product data, they control transaction data, and if they want to boot you, they can boot you because they control these centralized databases where all this is collected, and they are sovereign over their zones of control. And so you end up with these small kingdoms or fiefdoms where they have their own sort of regulatory commerce department, they have their own judicial system where they decide whether or not you are able to sell on their platform. Now, to illustrate this problem and what we hope to achieve a little bit better, let's talk a little bit about social media platforms. Social media platforms are set up in much the same way that e-commerce platforms are set up, and there's solutions in the form of various DSOC, or decentralized social media applications. You may have heard of Farcaster or Lens. But I'm going to quickly go through, and by the way, this is a little bit more of a technical presentation just because I'm the CTO, and there's some business stuff in there as well for you VCs out there, but mostly I'm going to talk through the technical details of what we're trying to implement. So if you look at Lens protocol, you can see it has an architecture sort of like this. It has a series of smart contracts that are deployed, and you have a Lens profile, which is minted as an NFT, which holds all of these different things, whether it's comments or publications or retweets, which they call mirrors. Your NFT profile holds that data. And you can see the larger architecture, this data is written on chain, and then Lens acts as an indexer and a data API for front-end applications that want to build social media apps. So you can build multiple social media apps, things that look like Facebook or look like Twitter or look like whatever social media app you want, and you can take your profile between them, not lose any of the data, because you ultimately own your social profile and you own all the data that is associated with your social profile. And so let's go back to e-commerce. This is our solution. Loadpipe as a data access protocol, and then Hamza, which is the first marketplace that will be operating on the Loadpipe protocol, exists as sort of a filter for the data that is written on chain to the Loadpipe protocol. And so I'll just go through a little bit of our technical roadmap. So the first thing, and you can go to hamza.biz right now. We have a WordPress implementation up, which is where we're testing our escrow system and our dispute resolution system. It's, again, a WordPress implementation. By March, we should have moved to a React implementation. But in May of this year, we hope to have that React implementation as well as a testnet launch of crypto payments, multi-sig dispute resolution, and we'll be internally tracking people who are interacting with our platform to award them points and reputation. Now, if you could see this other side over here, the diagram shows that we have transactions processing on the Ethereum main chain. We have Hamza, which is using that for its escrow system and dispute resolution. And then we have 3 databases over here, which are a little bit off screen. Those 3 databases contain, first, the information that Hamza will need, inevitably. Second, the user profile information that will eventually be migrated on chain. And then third is the product data, which will also eventually be moved on chain. By November, we hope to have the Loadpipe protocol totally and completely implemented. So that means that we'll have on-chain profiles, on-chain products, and on-chain reputation, as well as fully on-chain escrow and dispute resolution. And again, we should have this data pulling into a testnet environment, but we should be processing transaction in a live mainnet environment. And at this point, we will still have a data server, and that's because a marketplace needs some information that you don't want written publicly on chain. Things like address information, things like KYC, if you want to implement KYC information. But again, that's a decision that can be made at the marketplace level. And so you see, then in November 2024, we'll also be in tandem with that launching the DAO governance modules. So right now, we will have a DAO that will have a token. That token will have a lot of different functions, one of which will be staking for vendors. That way we can implement slashing for bad behavior. Tokens, when best used, are best used to incentivize good behavior and punish bad behavior within an ecosystem. So we'll have multiple roles that are enabled by specific token staking contracts. Things like community moderators who are looking at what the categories that people have posted products on the protocol, people like judges who are working in the dispute resolution systems, and things like protocol governors and marketplace governors. So the protocol will be this sort of general data layer, and then the marketplace will be a filter that decides what products and what jurisdictions it wants to ship to, right? What products it wants to list and which commerce it wants to engage in. So we'll have these 2 DAOs that are, again, operating at very different levels. It introduces the concept of progressive decentralization, which is what we're going for, right? Initially, we'll have a marketplace where you can buy and sell things in crypto, and we will sort of be the judge, juries, and executioners, right? We want to enable crypto buying and selling. We want to enable dispute resolution. But initially, while we're testing out the system, we will have central control over it. And the idea is that over time, we continually decentralizing these systems, moving them to things like Claros, where we can do on-chain arbitration of disputes, where we'll have multiple different judges and roles who will be fulfilling different needs within the ecosystem. Because again, all these roles are things that Amazon provides out of the box. But we want a circular economy that is not just extracting value to shareholders, but instead sharing the value among participants within the community. One other thing to note is that DAOs will be able to set like protocol fees, for instance, or marketplace fees. So they could set them as high as 50%, but maybe another marketplace might come along and say, well, we only want it to be 4%. And we'll see who decides to buy and sell in those ecosystems. Eventually, we'll also, so this was the product Zeppelin, is what we called it, that we launched at the hackathon in October of last year. It was a system for on-chain affiliate marketing, which we understand is like a necessary piece of having a functioning crypto or like functioning e-commerce platform. And so we can release NFTs, which allow like crowd-funded products to be built and then do on-chain distributions of affiliate payments based on a crypto escrow system. Our competitive edge, our advisor team is built of the former Purse.io team who built a large-scale Bitcoin marketplace for buying Amazon products. They basically existed as a layer on top of Amazon that allowed e-commerce selling initially. And as part of Purse closing last year, we also acquired all the user and product data that Purse had. And so we also understand what products our buyers want, who those buyers are, at least some of them, and we can start reaching out to them and sellers. And we've already started that, to be fair. And if you want to contact me, you can add my personal Telegram there. And if you want to join our Discord, then you can scan this QR code, get in, and start helping us solve these problems. And I'll open up the floor to any questions. All right, thank you guys. Oh, sorry. Sell out. I would say we would most likely not sell out to Amazon. So when I think about this, I think about these. I think of this largely as a governance problem, right? So when people are spinning up marketplaces, that marketplace exists as sort of a legislative arm that is regulating the flow of commerce. They're also regulating taxation. We have inbuilt like sort of justice mechanisms, and they can decide which markets they want to target, right? Whether they want to do suppliers in China and buyers in South America and be very directional in that. And so I see 5 years from now, multiple marketplaces existing in different legal jurisdictions that sort of have their own sort of atomized zones of control. I see it as sort of a pathway to network states, right? You have a legislature, you have a judiciary, and you have a DAO that controls which modules to implement there. Yeah, I mean, like in essence. I mean, that's sort of blockchain in general, right? I mean, people on the buyer or seller side can implement their own like security mechanisms if they'd want to. Are you asking from like a tax liability perspective or just from like a privacy perspective? So, I mean, like, yeah, price data should be publicly available, right? Price data is publicly available on Amazon. Like you can already go to a competitor and see what price they're listing things at. With cryptocurrency, we can do, I mean, like, and yeah, like part of that is wrapped up in a dispute resolution system, in having a system where you can, for instance, stop someone from sandbagging your reviews. Because if you have on-chain reputation, then you need to be able to dispute on-chain reputation, right? Again, it's sort of tied up in this dispute resolution system. I would also say that like privacy is sort of on the individual at this point, right? We're not going to natively implement Tornado Cash for a lot of reasons. But I mean, I think we're agnostic as to sort of where we ultimately deploy it. And it's possible that we could deploy to like the Zeppelin was deployed to Polygon ZK EVM. And so using a little bit of zero knowledge, I'm not a ZK dev. I know a lot of ZK devs. I don't know how much is possible in terms of hiding what your balance is, but certainly we're privacy focused. Anyone else? All right, thank you guys.